Hello everyone, welcome to one more podcast for the Athletic School. Today we have a guest speaker, his name is Brett Berger and also Gustavo here.
Thank you.
Brett, thanks so much for being able to be willing to talk with us. We want to talk about how you became a professor, your experience with hockey, as a coach as well. You had some good achievements with hockey. So yeah, thanks so much for being here.
Yes, thanks for having me. I'm excited to kind of go through some different things and talk about my maybe a little bit odd career path. But,
Right.
I'm excited about it.
Yeah, so I mean, you play hockey, right? And then you became a coach. You had some good achievements for you. You were a coach. You were the national champions. You were the coach of the year in 2017, and now you became a professor here at Lords. You teach many classes of sports management, sports marketing, business communication. So tell us a little bit, how was that transition from a player to a professor nowadays?
Yeah, I think it was a lot less scary than others would think, and probably even what I thought going into it. The parts that I loved about coaching were the relationships and the growth from the players. So jumping over into the academic side, I was still able to form those relationships and see the growth from semester to semester, year to year, and hopefully as we continue in my career and all of my students continue to graduate, to see them go on to big time jobs and have success, whatever that means to them.
So when you were a player or a coach and you made this transition, you said you thought it would be scary. So why you thought about that?
I think anything new is scary, right? As humans, we just can't resist change more often than not. So it was a whole different prep. It was a skill set that I thought I had, but I wasn't sure. And being a student, you don't really know all the stuff that goes on for the faculty. Just as being an athlete, you don't really know everything that goes on for a coach. And I think it's just one of those things. You have a little bit of a learning curve, and as you get deeper into it, you kind of feel, all right, this is either perfect and right for me, or kind of have to veer at that point and edit it. So.
But as a coach, you think you were already teaching some of the stuff that you are teaching now in a classroom?
Yeah, I think the word coach and the title, it can easily be confused or translated with teacher, with mentor, with guide. Same thing, professor, teacher, guide, coach. I think they're all interchangeable. So I think I was already teaching, I was just teaching in a different atmosphere. With coaching, I'm teaching the same 20 to 30 people through a whole year. On the academic side, I'm teaching 5 different groups of 20 to 30 in each class for only a semester, and then it's a different group. So it's a different dynamic, but I think the overall message is the same, that you're teaching, guiding, and helping students find success.
So, and when you were a coach, you won the national champions, right? So, what kind of set skills would you say that your team had that made you guys won the nationals?
Yeah, I think with that team, I don't know if it was an overall skill thing. Obviously, we were talented, right? We had a lot of skill. I think it was the right time, right place, and right group. We had a very young group of student athletes, and during that time, we had a transition we added another team. So, this is a group of athletes that might have had a different type of motivation and banded together. And I think a little bit of just unsure what the national tournament process was really all about. We'd never been there before. This was our first time going. So we weren't nervous and scared. We didn't know how big of a stage it would be and what to expect. So I think it was, for the guys and the group, it was just another road trip.
Right.
And I think that was the exciting part. And I think that's why we found success. The group had no fear, and they were really united in that motivation of, all right, maybe they weren't the type of player this other team wanted, but we all were in the same situation now together.
And I mean, I think to be a coach, you gotta be a leader as well. how would you describe your leadership style? Because I think that's a huge part for teams to end up winning a championship. If we go behind the scenes, we'll see many things that made them, succeed on the court. So, what would you say your leadership style was?
Since I've had you both in class, I definitely feel like I'm a democratic style leader. I really believe in bringing in the right people and then letting them do what you brought them in to do. I think that works with athletes and teams. I think it works with jobs and organizations. And I think we just started to bring in the right athletes that we felt would fit our culture and what we wanted to do and the type of people we wanted, and obviously talented hockey players, and then let them play their style and what they've done, not try to change them into what we want, because we're recruiting them for a reason, what we saw them do previously. So I think that laid back style of letting them have that input of, this is their team, and through different things of the team creating the rule book and having a say in a lot of things, and having different fun things where we play games and the winner of the game gets to pick one drill for the next practice. I think those things in that democratic style, they form that bond and that strength of they have a say, they have ownership on the team and the success of the team, and all of a sudden if they're intertwined with the success of the team, we're more successful in the long term.
Yeah. You mentioned about like team culture, and we've been studying a lot about like culture in business and even in sports, So how that works exactly? It comes from the coach, it comes from the captains of the team, or it comes from everybody. It's something that you control, that you can change over the season, or something that was there and it's hard to change. How you see that?
Yeah, I think culture is the trickiest thing about coaching. I think it's very tough to build, it's very easy to break, and then it's tough to rebuild. So I think a lot of time has to go into building culture and building relationships and understanding what culture you want from your players and your team and your organization and how to get there. I think having those conversations up front with everyone can help build the culture. I think it comes from everybody. One bad egg can destroy the culture, and I also think it's tougher at different levels. At the pro level, you can easily, you're 10 games in the season, someone's not fitting in, you cut them and you pick up somebody new. At the collegiate level, there really isn't that opportunity. You can cut and you can kick people off your team, but there's no reservoir to pick somebody else up randomly. You have to wait till the end of the first semester and then somehow find a transfer, which is tough in itself. And then, not to blanket transfers, but there's a reason somebody's leaving somewhere. So did they not fit in the culture there? Were they homesick? There's good reasons, there's bad reasons, but it is trickier than just recruiting players, who are ready to make that jump to the collegiate level. So culture is a tricky thing, and those who can figure it out, might have it one year and then they lose it the next, and they kind of try the whole summer to refigure that out and find it again.
Yeah, I like that you mentioned kind of this process, and my question is exactly about the process, because we were talking to a writer yesterday, and he mentioned how important it is to enjoy the process. And how do you think you can make like the process nice, enjoy the practice, enjoy the hard work, but also don't lose track of your goals, don't become like messier or something like this?
Yeah, I think the process is huge. I think we get so far away from having fun so quickly because the sports world is based around wins and losses. And too early and too young are athletes and coaches focused on winning when it should be fun. And even at the higher levels, if you don't enjoy going to practice, then you're not going to be successful. And you can look at any level. You look at some of the best athletes at the professional levels right now, and they do their interviews and they talk about it. They're the first one there. They enjoy the grind. They enjoy preparation. They enjoy working out, staying in shape, and being ready to compete. You know, those are the players that help build that culture and enjoy that process. Because once you start focusing on the end result, there's so little wiggle room in terms of success and failure.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, there's only one team that wins the championship at the end of the year.
Yeah.
So if that's your focus the whole year, you're not prepped to continue to build and strengthen your culture and your team unity and prepare for those big tough games or even just the ups and downs to the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that process really comes back to just enjoyment.
Yeah.
If you're having fun going to practice and going to team functions and events, you want to be around everyone, you try harder for them, you have that right culture, and then you're going to put in the work because you believe in what you're doing.
I like that because it's just like you said, and I feel like the difference between the teams that will win the championship and the teams that they lose, it's most of the time is because they were having fun, not necessarily having fun and laughing when they were at practice, but I mean enjoying the grinding, enjoying going to practice, enjoying being there, So I think that in us and athletes, I think. It's hard for us to understand that sometimes, but that's why we want to share that with people, because we feel like a lot of people they are looking at the bigger picture, but they are forgetting like how to get there, So yeah, I think that's a huge deal.
Yeah, and it's very nice, because if you think just about the result and you didn't enjoy the process, if you lose in the final, you have nothing left because you didn't enjoy the whole time. So. And then you lost the final, you're sad because you lost and you didn't enjoy the process. So
right.
You have nothing to be happy about it.
Yeah.
But like being the final, like building a group or whatever the goals of that team is, it's actually, I would say, equally important.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. You had the experience to coach Team USA. What do you think your personal skills that made you get there, and once you got there, how was the experience? How different was from coaching college kids, and like was surprising, was hard, was easy, how was it?
Yeah, so for the Team USA, it was college kids that we took overseas.
Okay.
So it was like a Olympics for college
for
athletes, and we were able to take a women's hockey team over. Honestly, a little bit of luck, and I think the way the sports world works is the right connections and relationships. So, I mean, I won't say luck. We had good teams, so we were, on a roll. We were a top 3 team in the nation for 3-4 years in a row, and obviously, when you have that success, as a coach, you usually get some praise for it. Just like the other way around, if you don't have the success, you, as a coach, you get the blame for it.
Yeah.
But we had a great staff those years, and we just had great players who bought into the system. So through our record, I think I was on the radar to help, be an assistant coach for that. And then I think just through networking and building those relationships, I was able to meet with those in charge. Formed enough relationships prior to that I had some good reviews, comments, peers saying some positive things that it worked out for me, and it was a great opportunity and a great blessing to go overseas and do that.
Yeah, we talk a lot about networking in one of your classes, and I agree with you that in business in general we need the network. But I feel like sometimes people force too much the network. Do you think that could be a bad thing as well? Or if it's network, it's going to be good by the end of the day? What do you think about that?
No, I think there's definitely forced networking. I was watching a webinar type of thing, and they talked about that this person no longer just accepts connection requests on LinkedIn if there's not a note. Because they're just empty connections.
Right.
They're not true relationships. So I think there's validity to that you can't just, we're connected on LinkedIn, you're a connection. well, did you send a note? And why are you connecting and who are you?
Yeah.
You know, I'll do that in trying to find new guest speakers every year. And I'll send them the note with the connection. Hey, you know, you're a social media director for this organization. I have a sport marketing and promotions class. Love for you to come be a guest speaker and talk about this more if you'd be interested. Even if they can't, we've connected on words. I can go back to them maybe the next year, or you know, run a type of assignment assessment by them. You know, is this something you do, or can I have an example of something that you're doing currently? So I think there's, like you said, empty and forced connections that some try to make just to say they have this many connections, or they talk to this person once. But until you create a dialogue and you know, have a valuable dialogue too, not just, hi, I'm a sports management major, I'm a business major, I just wanted to connect.
Right.
Well, tell me more. Show me that you want to learn. And you know, we do that further on in some of our senior classes. You have to find a mentor, and you have to talk to them, you know, 5, 6, 7 times through the semester. So you're actually building that relationship and trying to understand what they do, who they are, so that when you do reach out in a year, they can remember. And this way you're not just wasting time of adding 100 people on LinkedIn. You're actually building, you know, 10 valuable connections that all can actually help you moving forward.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I think you correct me if I'm wrong, but like if you kind of be yourself, be genuine, I think it's gonna be much easier to make a strong connection, like the 10 valuable that you said, because of course you meet a person that's really important, but you don't feel that you are like you have something similar with them. But sometimes another person that's not in charge of something, or is not in that high position, but it's a strong connection because it's genuine. So it's like you feel that you can talk to the person, and that person can actually help you because the person likes you. I think that's a huge difference.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that I believe that, like, if you're doing your part, you know, if you're, you know, treating people nicely and
you bring
like,
these people around,
right, and you are not forced, you're not, you know, empty, trying to make that empty connection. I think those good connections will come to you eventually, right?
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be said with that, right? Like, be yourself.
Yeah.
And because a connection's worthless unless that person you connected with is actually going to help you down the line, right? And that means they want to be able to know your character and put their name on the line to promote you. So you have to be yourself, you have to be relaxed, and at the end of the day, you don't know who's going to help you.
Right.
You know, and that's why I try to get class discussions going, because somebody in that class is going to be a GM in 10 years. But just because they're nobody now, and I say nobody, they're not holding a big title, right? And we're not trying to, you know, be my connection and mentor. Well, no, but if you're friends with them and have that dialogue and connect with them in class and throughout the major and throughout your time here, in 10 years when they're the GM and you want to be an assistant GM or director of marketing, all of a sudden it's like, hey, we were in 5 classes together at Lord's. And they're like, oh yeah, you were great. You spoke up in class. You were respectful. We talked a lot.
Yeah.
Or it's the other way. You didn't give me the time of day when I wasn't quote unquote important. It's not going to matter to me now then.
And I think also in sports, it could be a huge difference, especially in the professional world, because like in the higher level, like the technique kind of matches, and then like your personality, who you are, can make the difference for getting a very contract. Yeah, for sure, it's gonna make difference.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. So moving forward, another question that I had for you, we were talking about leadership before. So I want to know what ethics and leadership means to you, because it's something that we always talk in one of our classes here, and like Gustavo was mentioning before as well, like people around the school was, you know, giving you an example of leadership, and so I want to hear from you what leadership and ethics means. I
mean, to unfortunately oversimplify it, I kind of wrote down some notes and I said, doing the right thing even when it's a tough thing, right? And that goes across the board for everything, not just sports, right? But like, you know, cutting the wrong player even though they're a stud. Yeah. They're the best player on the team, but they're not fitting the culture, and they're ruining the locker room. Like that's leadership, and that's the ethical behavior to do, right? Like saying no to something that you know is wrong, but might put you ahead for a job or a promotion. Like saying no to that, it's a tough thing to do, but it's the right thing. And when you can do those right things, even when they're extremely tough, I think you've become an ethical person. And obviously, at that point, I believe too, you have at least a few traits to show that leadership, because once you do move up the ranks, others will follow your type of ethical compass at that point.
Yeah, no,
I like the answer because, like, in a team, of course, if you're not allowed to drink before a day before the competition, and then the player that is in the bench and doesn't play that much drank, and then you kick him out of the team, it's one thing. Of course, might be harm because the players like the person, but like when your best player like drinks before a game and then you gotta send him out, it's a huge thing, and that's when your ethical values come up, because like you said, it's a tough decision, but
yeah,
it's gonna make the difference in the
right.
end.
I
I
think
totally believe.
Yeah, I
you
think it's
will.
important to have like the principles and the values of the team like clear to everyone, you know, because and also it comes down for our next question as well. Like it's about the relationship, you know, between the coaching staff and the players and your teammates, you know, like is everyone in the same level here, or am I important than him because I'm playing more, or because I can, you know, I make 2 saves more than him per game, you know. So I think that's important as a team to have that clear, and I feel like a lot of coaching staff and even players, they don't really know what the team value is, so it becomes just harder to achieve good results. So in my next question for you, it's about the relationship between coaches and players.
Yeah, actually, I was in a class with you when you had kind of this conversation. Has been a long time ago, and you said, correct me if I'm wrong, but you said that you wouldn't let a player get less closer to you as like, I don't know, like family or something like this. And I said that for me, it's all about the networking. So if I feel that I'm a coach and I feel that that person could be my friend, I would be friends with him or her. And would that work for you, or you try to keep like the professional side a little bit far from that?
Yeah, I mean, I think there has to be a line, because at the end of the day, you're hired, so you are a professional to do a job. I think the sport and the level and the gender all make a difference too. I think there's a difference when I was a male assistant coach coaching males, right? That relationship was a lot closer. The age gap was closer, right? And that was okay. I still knew where the line was, but there was a difference between them when I was coaching women and I was the head coach and I'm older now, right? There's a bigger line of where not to cross. So I think those things matter, but I think to maintain respect, there has to be boundaries. There has to be a line in the sand where, you know, you can call me for all these things, but we can't go out to the bar together. We can't just hang out on Sunday watching, you know, football and do that stuff. We can't just go out to eat randomly. With that being said, I think if you are a good leader and you form those relationships with that respect, you can become friends after. And I am very good friends with a lot of players that I've coached. I've been invited to weddings, and I feel like I'm still part of their lives. So I am all about being actual friends right upon graduation. To make it more relevant, like I'll accept Facebook friend requests after you graduate, you know, after we're done, and our relationship can be different, where we can be friends, not player, coach. So I was probably a bigger stickler as a male coach coaching females, but overall just a stickler, like we're not going to be friends on Facebook, you know, we're not going to talk too much of my personal life. You know, I will talk about your personal life and help you and guide you. I'm a mentor here and make sure you're okay and happy. But we can cross that line after graduation, and we can hit that name of friends at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that's it works for you, or do you think that should be a rule overall to everything work better?
So I think it works for me, but I think it's a general rule, especially at the collegiate level. I mean, anytime you hear of, I'll say romantic relationship between coach and player, that coach is gone, right? And I would say that's more the extreme of the romantic side, but I think you look back on a lot of players and you ask them how their coach was. The players that kind of disliked their coach while playing because they were tough on them and had those boundaries, love their coach upon graduation and are close with that coach at that point too. So I think that boundary and those lines have to be there between player and coach, or else you can lose respect from too many players. You might have, out of 20 players, you might have 10 that love you and they're your friends. That other 10 who aren't in that circle and don't have that relationship now, and then you cross that line, they lost respect. Then you have a split team, and that team's not going to be successful.
And I like that you mentioned about the gender as well, because I think it's a huge difference. Especially for me, I'm trying to pursue a coaching career, and I've been playing with men my whole life. And then here, the women's volleyball is bigger, so it would be like more opportunities. But I think it's very hard for me to deal with that, to how to treat them, not as I treat my teammates or even coaching men. It's a big difference.
Yeah, and I was gonna ask about communication between the coaches and the athletes. What kind of stuff do you think the athletes needs to know, and what kind of things do you think the athletes should not know or they don't really need to know? Like, is there anything like that?
Yeah, I think it goes back to different levels are different too.
Right.
But I think the more they know, usually the better. I think we as humans like to have an explanation if we have a question, right? Especially at the collegiate level, we're not kids anymore. So because I said so and because I'm your coach doesn't really work. And it's not like you need to explain everything to me, but for me as a coach, if I can explain why we're doing a drill and the purpose of that skill set and that situation, the players buy in and we go ahead and do the drill. If not, and they're like, why are we doing this? And I'm like, because I like this drill. Then they don't buy in. And if they don't buy in, then they're out. And if they're out, they're not trying hard, and
it might not work.
It's a waste of time. I don't think there's too many other things beyond the actual sport. You're not trading, you're not cutting to a big scenario, right, at the collegiate level. At the pro, that's a job. They don't need to know what's going on in the front office. But, at the collegiate level, I think, all right, we're going this game, we're going to leave at this time. Why are we leaving so early? Not just because I said so, I want to go and stop for a legit lunch.
Right.
Sit down, eat, and then, carry on so we can get up and walk around. Instead of driving the 4 hours, stop at McDonald's and then going to compete in the soccer game. That's not how it works.
It's crazy for me because it sounds so simple for us here, because I think for us as an athlete, and you probably had that when you were playing as well, but there are so many coaches that I know that they don't have that talk. I feel like here is even better, like in US, but like going back to Brazil, I had many coaches, and I'm pretty sure Gustavo, you also had that. It's just like you said, we're gonna do that drill because I wanted to do it, and doesn't matter why. We're gonna leave early, and because I won, and you don't need to know, and people are even scared to ask because, well, if he's not saying, it might be something that we should not know. So it's so hard. It sounds simple for us here, but unfortunately there are so many people, so many coaches in so many different levels that they still treat the players like that.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know if you agree, but that leadership style that is authoritarian, it's kind of going down and down, because we were talking with another guest speaker in Portuguese about that, and he said, today's not like this. It's not like aggressive with the players as used to be before, and we're gonna do because I'm saying so, and then it's gonna be you're gonna run until you're tired, and that's it. And the players used to do, and now it's kind of you gotta have this explanation to make the buy-in, to make like the results better.
Yeah.
And I think has been changing, and it's gonna keep changing.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. My next question for you, Brett, what kind of lessons you learned throughout your career that you still carry with you nowadays?
I think relationships are everything, and I think it served me in my new career in academics too. I think building the relationships with my peers and other faculty and administration, and most importantly my students. I think those mean the most. Those are the students fill out the end of the year evals. The students go on with the lessons I hope I teach to get jobs. And while this is only my third year doing this, I'm hoping in 5-10 years I have students reaching out to me and saying, hey, can I be a guest speaker? And looking at the job titles and what they're doing, and of course, that not only do they want to do it, but sometimes they'll reach out to me to do it, and or I'll reach out to them and they'll say, how can I help you? What can I do? And the fact that not only are you helping me by being guest speakers, but you made it, right? You got that job that we were working towards for 4 years.
For sure.
So I think building those relationships. I also think I wrote down listen, think, rethink, and then talk. I've been guilty of it, and I think we're just wired as humans. Emotions are high, especially in the sport industry. And as athletes, and things happen so quick. And when, as a group, as athletes, as sport fans, emotions run high when it's win or lose, and we have these competitive juices going. So the ability to stop and truly listen, and then think about it, double check your thoughts, and then speak. You don't have to be the loudest voice in the room. You don't have to be the first to speak. If you're saying something from the heart that's authentic and accurate, it's going to get the job done. Whether it takes an extra couple minutes or another day. But I think that's one of the biggest lessons I learned, is to really listen to others and then think about it and then help that move forward.
I like that, and I feel like we miss that a lot because we like to talk about ourselves, but we end up not listening too much. And
I think that's natural. No? The human being he likes to talk about itself. And that's really cool. I was listening to something about a Brazilian. He was a billionaire, and the guy had a conversation with him, and he was mentioning a podcast, and he said it was insane how that person that was a billionaire was giving him so much attention, was listening carefully to everything that he was saying. And he didn't need to, he was already successful billionaire. But I think that's what made him successful, because he used to be 100% present, like over there, listening to that person, and kind of goes in the same line what you said. Are we really listening, or just waiting for our chance to speak and say something?
No, I like that. What are some of the things that you see in the sport industry that successful people in the sport industry have in common?
Back to relationships. Those people have a list of people that you can call, and they'll all tell you about the same thing, right? They're a great person, they have great work ethic, right? I would recommend them to anyone, right? So those relationships, I think, the successful people in business overall, and definitely in the sport industry, have strong relationships. I think the really successful people are not just hard workers. Being a hard worker, I think, is easy. Not everyone does it, but it's easy. You just have to show up and keep going. I think being a smart worker and working smart is that next level. Finding a creative, more effective way to do something is working smart. And those that are doing that are climbing the ladder quick and then staying at the top. and just a certain level of risk taking, you know, especially in the sport industry, it's a different climb. You know, there's no job in the sport industry where you graduate college and you walk into like a $60,000 paying entry level job and you have all this power, right? Like, if you're an accountant, yeah, that's normal. Other jobs, yeah. There's a lot of jobs in the sport industry where it's like, okay, you know, you live in Sylvania, Ohio, you're from Brazil, I need you to move out to southern Texas. We got you a place to live and we'll pay you $10,000 for the year. And you're like, whoa, like, you can't live on that.
Right.
But that's what it takes. And I think if you listen to interviews and you know, behind the scenes stuff with top coaches and GMs and stuff like that, they have similar stories that they did it. They put the grind in to get started, to build those relationships and to learn. Right? We talked about listening and learning. And if they did all that, they found success. You know, there's not a lot of people who are like, I'm not going to take the chance. Let me just go this path. It's a little easier. I'll make more money. They kind of stay at that level.
Yeah.
So I think that idea of risk taking to get into the industry and put that work in early on, betting on yourself type of deal, is a common component.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%.
Especially because they made success, but they gave up a lot of things sometimes to be in that position.
Yeah, and we were having that same talk with our guest speaker yesterday about learning. You know, so like, I think it was Nelson Mandela that said that like winners they never lose, or they win or they learn. You know, and once we see things as a something to learn or something to win, you know, that becomes easier for us to become successful, you know, because, and we understand that failure is also part of the success, you know. If we, like, just like you said, if we see so many people that are successful today, in some point they made, I wouldn't say mistakes, but they had some lessons that they carry with them that were really important, and they thought they were a failure, but actually it was just a lesson that made them successful.
Yeah, I think especially in the sport world, right? Like Michael Jordan got cut from his JV basketball team.
Failure,
right? But then the greatest ever.
Yeah.
You know, there's players that get drafted super late. Tom Brady, right? 199th draft pick. As a player in the draft, you're like, I just failed like that. No one has any interest in me. And then go down and be one of the greatest, right? So, yeah, I think it's you win or you learn, and those are the people that keep moving forward, the lifelong learners.
And I think saying is way easier to do, because imagine you in that situation, like, now I didn't get picked, what I'm gonna do? No, I trust myself, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna keep trying, but I think that's really hard.
Yeah, it is. It is.
And that's part of that risk taking, right?
Yeah.
I'm gonna put in the work, and I'm gonna do these things without knowing where it's gonna take me, right? Like, I'm going to start a podcast and put in all this time, not knowing that in 2 years it might have just been a podcast. Or in 3 years we could be making millions and having whatever guest on we want, right? But you're putting the work in because it's something you enjoy, and you believe in yourself, you bet on yourself. So it's awesome.
And the lessons are here anyways. Like, no matter the success, doesn't matter the outcome, the lessons are here. So it's really important.
More important is because we are enjoying the process again, one more time. Yeah. So, well, our last questions for you, it's a question that we always ask our guest speakers. It's how you define success, how you measure success.
And I don't want to spoil it for our audience, but I know you gave me some of the questions ahead of time, which was awesome, so I can prep. And this one was the one I thought about most. And there's so many different angles to success, right? We hear about it all the time, and I was finally happy with my answer out of a bunch of different thoughts. And I just wrote down, I was proud of what you accomplished. And I think that's a broad but specific answer in the fact that there's so many ways to fail. But if you're proud of what you accomplished, right? We talked about going the whole season. Like, only one team can win the championship. So you can sit there and say, we didn't win it this year, we're a failure, we failed, I stink at this. Or be proud of what you accomplished. You know, we had a 15-game winning streak. We had 5 All-Americans, 5 All-Stars, whatever, most wins in program history. If you can be proud of the accomplishments you've had and focus on those, then that's success. Because success is so different for everyone, as I'm sure you've experienced asking, right?
Yes.
You know, is success for me, you know, earning $500,000 a year? Or is it watching my students get great jobs and enjoy the learning process? So, is it proud of what you accomplished? I think encompasses it all, and allows you to change your goals, right? So they're kind of fluid throughout your whole life, and as long as you're proud of what you set out to accomplish, then I think you find success in that sense.
I really like this final part where you said that it changed, because sometimes we look to some motivation videos or like how to be a leader and anything like this, and they say you need to find a purpose. But I am a big believer that this purpose is gonna change in the way, and then I would say, like, maybe I didn't make to this purpose, but I'm proud what I am right now. And maybe my goal just changed, and I'm going to another path, but I'm proud what I did before, and that's it's the first time that I heard an answer like this.
And that's why we ask our guest speakers that, because we are not looking for a definition of success. Like, we're not trying to copy anyone's definition of success. We're trying to make our own, you know, and by learning from all of you guys. And I think that's awesome, because, and I like what you said, because I agree with what Gustavo said, like, things change, the plan change, you know, and we still can be successful, you know, like, just because we didn't accomplish that, because we didn't win the national championship, doesn't mean that we are a failure. Maybe we still can be successful now winning the national champions, you know. So yeah, I love that. Thanks so much for being part of the podcast, the athletic school.
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you have a book or something that you really like and you'd like to share? Or a quote, maybe?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head. I mean, I've changed over to a lot of podcasts, and you know, there's some different, you know, sport, business, and leadership podcasts that I jump around on back and forth. But no, I think, and I read books, don't get it wrong, but I really like to read a bunch of shorter things, so I don't get stuck down one path, right? And because I think sometimes, like I've done in the past, I'll read one book and I'll be like, all right, that's amazing, I'm following that.
Yeah.
And then it's like you read another and you're like, okay, I'm going down this. And I'm like, well, if I can just read a little bit of this and that, and just articles, and especially with the sport industry, there's always motivational stuff and stories coming out where you're like wow, like that's the way to lead, and that's the way to kind of handle yourself, and I think that's great. So.
And besides the athletic school podcast that I'm pretty sure you listen to, what kind of podcasts you like to listen to?
I listen to some financial stuff because I think there's a strong correlation with leadership and understanding self and self-restraint. And then I'll listen to, you know, there's some Cam and Strick, there's some hockey podcasts that I really enjoy because they'll have tons of coaches on. And I love hearing stories. I love hearing stories of what happened and how they handled things and how they view, you know, especially older coaches, how they view the change in the game and the players. And I mean, you always hear these other outside things, you know, players are softer now and, you know, you can't yell at them now. But it's funny to hear older coaches who lived through that, coach that way, have a different viewpoint. Like, players aren't softer now, it's just, you know, society has changed. You just can't yell at someone and throw, you know, a soccer ball at their head. It's not allowed anymore. But that's for the better. You know, so I think just kind of taking all that in has been helpful and fun to kind of learn through that.
Yeah, for sure. Sure. Well, thank you so much. I really enjoyed the conversation. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you for your time. You are a very good example here in the school, and I really appreciate your time being here.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and thanks for having me on. I'm super proud of you guys. This is awesome.
Yeah, thank you.